Not every expensive shoe is a good shoe. Some of them are just expensive. That sounds obvious until you're standing in a store holding a $400 heel that feels like it was made last Tuesday, wondering why the price tag does not match anything your hands are telling you about the leather. We are about to reveal 5 brands charging luxury prices for shoes that do not earn them. 5 brands where every dollar on the tag is backed by something real. The difference between them is not always visible from the outside, which is exactly why this list exists. Let's start with the 5 robbing you blind. Number 5. Steve Madden Premium line. Steve Madden's regular line has never pretended to be luxury footwear. The prices are accessible, the trend turnover is fast, and most shoppers understand exactly what they are buying. The problem is the premium line. Steve Madden has quietly pushed several collections into the $150 to $250 range, using thicker packaging, more restrained branding, and a retail presentation designed to communicate a quality step-up that the shoe itself does not consistently deliver. The leather uppers in the premium line are frequently a thinner cut than brands genuinely competing at that price point use as their standard. Thinner leather creases faster, develops permanent fold lines at the toe box sooner, and loses its surface integrity in a shorter time frame than a heavier cut would under the same conditions of regular wear. Most shoppers do not notice this on day 1, or even in the first 2 weeks. The difference becomes obvious around the 2 to 3 month mark, when the toe box of a thinner leather shoe has already developed the kind of permanent wrinkling that a heavier cut would not show for a year or more. The sole construction remains largely adhesive bonded across the premium line, rather than using the stitched or welted construction that actually justifies a premium price point in footwear terms. An adhesive bonded sole in a $200 shoe is the same fundamental construction used in a $40 shoe. The adhesive may be a slightly better grade. The fundamental vulnerability, the bond failing under heat, moisture, and flex stress, remains identical, and in warm climates or for shoppers who walk significant distances daily, that failure arrives considerably faster than the premium price tag suggests it should. The hardware upgrades visible in the premium packaging, the heavier-looking buckles, the more substantial heel tip, are frequently cosmetic rather than structural improvements. The buckle is heavier-looking. The attachment point beneath it is the same gauge as the affordable line. The heel tip looks more solid. The insert underneath it compresses under body weight at a comparable rate to the standard line. These are presentation upgrades, the shoe equivalent of a fancy box around an ordinary gift. And at $150 to $250, you deserve more than a fancy box. You are paying for the presentation of an upgrade, not the upgrade itself. The next brand on this list is harder to argue with because the reputation is so strong and so old that questioning it feels almost disrespectful, but the current product does not always match the heritage the marketing leans on. Number 4. Nine West Current Production. Nine West built a genuine reputation across decades, the working woman's heel. The reliable pump that got through a full day without destroying your feet or your budget. That reputation was earned honestly across the brand's best years, and it is still doing enormous work for the brand today, carrying a trust level in the market that the current product has not consistently earned on its own terms. The problem is that the brand producing shoes today is not the same brand that earned that reputation. After emerging from bankruptcy in 2018, Nine West's footwear division was licensed to a separate operating company. That restructuring changed the manufacturing relationships, the material sourcing, and the quality control processes behind every pair made under the name since then. The brand name is the same. The construction standard is not, and the gap between the two is precisely where the shopper who trusts the legacy reputation gets caught out. Current Nine West production uses a higher proportion of synthetic uppers than the brand's historical leather-forward positioning implied, often in a bonded or coated synthetic that simulates the look of leather without the material properties that made leather worth paying for. Bonded synthetic looks fine in photographs and in a store under good lighting. It behaves differently in real conditions, scuffing at contact points faster, losing its surface finish more quickly, and aging in the direction of degradation rather than the patina development that genuine leather produces under the same timeline. The heel stability, historically one of Nine West's strongest selling points, has become a recurring complaint in current reviews, with users reporting wobble and instability in heels that the brand's older reputation made unthinkable. The heel counter construction, the internal stiffener that keeps the back of the shoe rigid and your heel properly seated, is thinner in current production than the brand's heritage suggested it would be. At $60 to $100, the price point implies a quality level the current construction does not consistently reach. The shopper buying Nine West today is paying, in significant part, for a reputation built by a product that the current company did not make and is not reliably replicating. If this list is making you think twice about where your shoe budget is actually going, subscribe right now so you never miss a breakdown like this one. Every week we go exactly this deep. No sponsorships, no brand deals, just the honest comparison. Number 3. Jimmy Choo, entry level. Jimmy Choo at the entry level of the brand's price range is one of the most efficiently packaged status purchases in the luxury shoe market, and efficiency in this context is not a compliment. The brand's entry-level pumps and sandals, sitting between $300 and $500, use a construction that independent shoe repair professionals have consistently described as mid-market quality inside luxury packaging. The leather uppers at entry level are frequently a corrected grain leather rather than the full grain leather that the price point leads most consumers to expect, a distinction that matters considerably for how the shoe ages over time and how it looks after a full year of regular wear. Corrected grain leather has the natural surface sanded down to remove imperfections before a uniform artificial grain is applied on top. It looks consistent and pristine on the shelf and in the first several wears, which is precisely why brands use it in entry-level luxury production. It does not develop a patina with age the way full-grain leather does, because the surface doing the aging has been removed. A $500 corrected grain shoe ages less gracefully than a $150 full-grain shoe from a construction-focused brand, because the material hierarchy between them runs in the opposite direction from the price hierarchy. The sole at Jimmy Choo's entry level is frequently a leather-wrapped composite that looks like a genuine leather sole while providing the durability of a budget composite. Genuine leather soles require resoling as a normal maintenance step, which is a sign of quality construction rather than a flaw. A leather-wrapped composite fails differently, the wrapping separating from the composite underneath in a way that is not repairable through a standard cobbler resoling process, meaning the shoe has a functional end date that a genuinely leather-soled alternative does not. The insole padding, the layer your foot rests against directly inside the shoe, is thinner than the brand's retail positioning implies, a detail that becomes apparent after 4 or 5 hours of wear at an event, which is precisely the context most buyers purchase these shoes for. You are paying for the name, the box, and the bag it comes in. Those things are genuinely excellent. The shoe inside them at this price point does not consistently match them. Something different is happening with this next brand. The price is high, the reputation is strong, but the specific way this brand's shoes fail their customers is almost never discussed in the glossy coverage the brand receives. Number 2. Christian Louboutin, red sole tax. Christian Louboutin makes some genuinely good shoes. It also makes some genuinely average shoes at genuinely extraordinary prices, and the red sole is doing more work in that price justification than the construction underneath it. The red lacquered outsole is a trademark, a piece of protected intellectual property that the brand has defended aggressively in court across multiple continents. It is also a lacquered leather sole, which means it carries the same rapid outdoor wear-through vulnerability that any unprotected leather sole does, often requiring a rubber sole protector to be applied by a cobbler within the first few wears before the lacquer and the leather beneath it are damaged beyond cosmetic repair. A shoe whose signature feature requires immediate third-party intervention to protect it from normal use is a shoe that the brand designed around a photograph rather than around the person walking in it. That cobbler visit, typically between $25 and $50 depending on location, is a mandatory additional cost that the retail price does not acknowledge, meaning the effective price of a Louboutin that can actually be worn outdoors without destroying its most recognizable feature is higher than the tag on the box communicates. The leather uppers across Louboutin's range vary considerably in quality across price tiers, with the entry and mid-range pieces using leather and construction that independent cobblers and luxury resellers have described as comparable to quality mid-market production at a fraction of the price. The highest tier pieces use genuinely excellent materials. The entry and mid-range pieces are subsidizing the brand's artistic reputation and the licensing value of the red sole, rather than receiving construction quality proportional to the price. The block heel and stiletto constructions at entry level use a heel attachment method that several experienced cobbler communities have flagged as less structurally robust than comparable heel attachment at brands with significantly lower price points. The heel wobble that develops in Louboutin entry-level stilettos after several months of regular wear is a documented and widely discussed pattern that the brand's marketing materials have never addressed directly. At $400 to $900 for the entry and mid-range, you are paying a meaningful portion of the price for the color of the sole. That color is lovely. It is not worth what the price implies it costs to put it there. The last brand on the robbing you blind side of this list is the one that surprised us most, because it has a genuine craft heritage and a loyal following that makes calling it out feel counterintuitive. But the specific product category it has been overcharging for is impossible to ignore once you see the construction comparison. Number 1. Gucci casual sneakers. Gucci's heritage is genuine. The leather goods, the loafers, the horsebit construction that the brand has refined across decades of Italian production. Those products have construction arguments that justify significant price premiums over mid-market alternatives. The casual sneaker line is a different story entirely. Gucci's casual sneakers, sitting between $600 and $900, are produced largely in the same Italian factories as a significant portion of the European sneaker market, using similar EVA and rubber sole compounds, similar canvas and leather upper materials, and similar adhesive construction methods as sneakers across a wide range of price points. The Ace and the Riton, the brand's most commercially successful casual sneaker styles, are produced to a construction standard that independent sneaker reviewers and luxury resale authenticators have consistently described as comparable to quality mid-market athletic sneaker production. The materials are not bad. They are not $600 to $900 worth of better than what a $400 sneaker from a construction-focused athletic brand delivers. The canvas uppers on the Ace use a coated cotton canvas that several sneaker conservation specialists have noted is susceptible to yellowing and surface degradation under UV exposure at a rate comparable to mass-market canvas sneakers, which is a material performance outcome that a $600 price point has never prepared any customer to expect or accept. The rubber sole compound does not differ meaningfully from what athletic brands use at a third of the price. What you are paying for in a Gucci casual sneaker is the embroidery, the brand insignia, the green and red web stripe, and the cultural currency of wearing a name that the luxury market has assigned a specific social meaning. Those things have genuine value to many shoppers, and that is a legitimate personal choice. But they are not construction value. And at this price, the gap between the status value and the construction value is the widest on this entire list. Those are the 5 taking your money and handing you a story instead of a shoe. But here is what that list actually does for you. Once you know what overpriced construction looks like, what you are really paying for, when the sole cannot be resoled, when the leather is too thin, when the hardware is cosmetic, you suddenly know exactly what to look for on the other side of the comparison. The next 5 brands are not cheap, but every dollar on every tag is sitting on top of something real. These are the 5 brands that actually earn it. Starting with the one that the entire podiatric community has been quietly recommending for 60 years, while the fashion industry was busy pretending it did not exist. Number 5. Birkenstock, Arizona and Boston. Birkenstock belongs on this side of the list for a reason that most discussions of the brand's recent luxury positioning miss entirely. The cork latex footbed is not a comfort feature. It is a biomechanical engineering system. The deep heel cup, the anatomical arch, the raised toe bar are structural elements with documented podiatric function that the brand has maintained in essentially unchanged form across 60 years of production because the engineering was correct from the beginning, and changing it would compromise the outcomes it produces. The footbed molding process, the way the cork latex gradually compresses and shapes itself to the specific contours of the individual wearer's foot over the first several weeks of use, is a personalization outcome that no foam or gel insert can replicate through a mass-produced construction applied identically to every size across every wearer's foot shape. It is the difference between a surface that accommodates your foot and a surface that eventually conforms to it. And that difference is felt most clearly on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th hour of daily wear, which is precisely when most other sandals at this price range begin generating their most consistent complaints. At $100 to $150, the realistic lifespan of a resolable, well-maintained pair measured in years divides the cost down to a daily rate that almost nothing in this price range or several multiples above it can match on construction terms. The Arizona and the Boston are not trendy. They are correct, and the difference between those two things is exactly what this side of the list is built to recognize. The brand that comes next spent decades being overlooked precisely because its value proposition required the shopper to think about shoes differently, and the fashion industry is not naturally interested in encouraging that kind of thinking. Number 4. Margaux was built specifically to close the gap that this entire list has been examining. The distance between what a well-constructed leather shoe costs to produce and what the traditional retail and wholesale markup structure charges you to access one. The brand manufactures in the same family-owned Spanish and Italian factories, producing shoes for several European heritage houses, using full-grain leather uppers and construction methods, Blake stitching and cementing depending on the style, that support resoling and extended ownership rather than a single-season wear cycle. The full-grain leather sourcing is disclosed on the brand's product pages with a specificity that most brands at comparable or higher price points do not offer, because transparency about material sourcing is only commercially valuable to a brand whose materials can survive the scrutiny that transparency invites. By selling directly to the consumer, Margaux removes the wholesale markup, the retail markup, and the brand premium that collectively account for most of the price difference between a Margaux flat and a comparable flat from a heritage house, charging 3 times more for similar materials from similar factories. At $165 to $245, Margaux sits below the entry level of most brands on the robbing you blind side of this list, while delivering construction quality that most of those brands do not match at any price they charge. The fit customization service, which allows customers to select from multiple width options and a broad size range beyond standard sizing, is a practical acknowledgement that feet do not conform to industry standard sizing in the way most shoe brands assume they do. If this side of the list is giving you a different way to think about your shoe budget, hit the like button right now. Sharing this kind of honest comparison is exactly what keeps this channel running without brand sponsorships or product placements. Number 3. Clarks, Originals line. Clarks has been making shoes since 1825, and the Originals line specifically uses a construction philosophy that reflects nearly 2 centuries of accumulated shoemaking knowledge rather than a seasonal trend brief. The Desert Boot and the Wallaby use a crepe rubber sole, a natural rubber compound derived from rubber tree sap that provides cushioning, traction, and rollability in a single material without the synthetic compounds that most modern sole systems require. Crepe rubber also develops a personalized compression pattern under the specific pressure distribution of the individual wearer's foot over time, creating a gradually customized underfoot experience that uniform foam and EVA soles simply cannot replicate through any construction method currently available in mass market production. The suede and leather uppers across the Originals line are a substantial cut, noticeably heavier in hand than the upper materials used by most contemporary casual shoe brands in the same or higher price range. That upper weight is a direct indicator of the hide grade. Thicker leather comes from the more structurally dense center of the hide, and it determines how the shoe ages across years of regular wear. A thicker upper develops character. A thinner upper develops damage, and the distinction between those two aging outcomes is entirely visible after 12 months of regular use. The construction across the Originals line also includes a proper heel counter, a stiffened internal piece at the back of the shoe that maintains the shoe's shape and keeps the heel correctly seated across years of on and off use. Heel counter quality is one of the most consistently overlooked construction details in shoe purchasing because it is invisible from the outside and only becomes relevant once its absence causes the back of the shoe to collapse and fold inward during normal wear. At $100 to $150, Clark's Originals delivers construction heritage and material quality that the casual luxury market charges 3 to 4 times more to approximate, often without the rollability and the genuine crepe sole construction that make the Original worth owning. This next brand is more expensive than Clark's by a meaningful margin, and that premium is one of the most honestly earned premiums on this entire list. Number 2. Vionic was built from biomechanics research rather than fashion trends, and the product record across the brand's full range reflects the difference between a shoe designed around how feet actually work and a shoe designed around how feet look in a product photograph. The OrthoHeal technology, developed from documented podiatric research, incorporates a heel cup depth, an arch profile, and a 4-foot support geometry, calibrated specifically to align the foot, ankle, and knee through the walking stride, rather than simply placing cushioning between the foot and the floor. That distinction between alignment engineering and cushioning is clinically significant and rarely explained clearly in shoe marketing. Cushioning makes an existing pressure more comfortable. Alignment engineering changes where the pressure is applied in the first place, which addresses the source of discomfort rather than simply managing its consequence. Vionic is doing the second thing, and the outcomes for wearers, particularly those managing plantar fasciitis, knee pain, and lower back discomfort connected to poor foot alignment, have generated the kind of loyal, multi-year customer retention that fashion-forward brands with no functional engineering philosophy almost never achieve. The leather uppers across the premium Vionic range are a genuine leather sourcing standard rather than a synthetic substitute, and the adjustable strap systems, built into several styles, are specifically designed to accommodate foot swelling across a full day of wear, a consideration that most fashion shoe designs optimized for store try-on conditions do not build into the construction at all. At $85 to $165, Vionic is delivering a biomechanics-informed construction standard that prescription orthotic brands charge considerably more to access through clinical channels, inside a shoe that looks presentable enough for professional and social contexts without requiring the wearer to choose between foot health and appearance. One brand remains on this side of the list. It earns the top position not because it is the most affordable or the most fashionable, but because it represents something genuinely rare in the shoe market, a brand where the price reflects an honest accounting of what the materials, the construction, and the making actually cost. Number 1. Officine Creative. Officine Creative is an Italian shoe brand founded in Milan in 1994 that most people outside of serious footwear communities have never encountered, and that obscurity is entirely a function of how the brand chooses to spend its money. There is no celebrity ambassador, no major advertising campaign, no seasonal placement in the glossy fashion publications that determine which luxury shoe brands most shoppers have heard of. Every dollar that a comparably priced brand would spend on marketing visibility, Officine Creative spends on the shoe, and that allocation decision is visible in the construction, in ways that make the brand genuinely difficult to compare against anything else at the price point. The construction uses a Goodyear welt across the majority of the collection, the most durable and most resolable shoe construction available in production shoemaking, combined with full-grain, vegetable-tanned Italian leather sourced from tanneries in Tuscany that the brand has maintained relationships with across 3 decades of continuous production. Goodyear welted shoes can be resoled indefinitely, meaning the upper structure and the interior fit of a well-maintained pair can last decades while only the outsole requires periodic renewal. No other construction method available in non-bespoke shoe production offers the same combination of structural durability, sole replaceability, and upper longevity that a properly executed Goodyear welt provides. The leather sourcing is the second major argument. Vegetable-tanned leather, produced using plant-derived tanning agents rather than the chromium salts used in most commercial leather production, develops a depth of color and surface character with age that chrome-tanned leather cannot replicate. The tanning process is slower, more labor-intensive, and more expensive, which is precisely why most brands, including several on the robbing you blind side of this list, charging considerably more money, use chrome tanning instead. Vegetable-tanned leather ages in the same direction as well-made heritage leather goods, rather than degrading toward cracking and surface loss, becoming more visually interesting rather than less with each year of regular wear. The finishing on Officine Creative shoes, the edge painting, the burnishing at the toe, the hand-applied patina available on select styles, reflects skilled work performed by people who have spent years developing a specific technical competency rather than a machine-applied surface treatment standardized for production speed. At $350 to $600, Officine Creative sits at a genuine luxury price point. Unlike most of the brands on the other side of this list, that price reflects an honest accounting of what Goodyear welt construction, full-grain, vegetable-tanned Italian leather, and 3 decades of accumulated making knowledge actually cost when none of the budget is allocated to the campaign telling you about it. The best shoe you can buy is not the most expensive one. It is the one where the price reflects what was actually built, rather than what was spent making you believe it was worth buying. Click the next video on the left right now. We are breaking down the exact same comparison across women's bags, and the brands robbing you blind, they are even harder to spot than the ones on this list.